Hello, and welcome to the Crime Insomnia, the podcast where we delve deep into the stories behind some of the most chilling crimes. Today, we're diving into the heartbreaking story of Lindsay Hawker, a young British woman whose life was tragically cut short in Japan. Her story is one of loss, resilience, and a family's relentless fight for justice. Lindsay Ann Hawker was born on December 30th, 1984, in Coventry, England. She grew up in a loving family, the eldest of 3 daughters to Bill and Julia Hawker. Her younger sisters, Lisa and Louise, described her as their role model and best friend. Lindsay's parents recall her as a bright and compassionate person who was always eager to help others. Lindsay attended King Henry VIII School in Coventry and later graduated from the University of Leeds with a degree in biology. She was known for her kindness, infectious laugh, and adventurous spirit. Lindsay was also in a committed relationship with her boyfriend Ryan, whom she cared for deeply. After completing her studies, she decided to take a gap year and travel to Japan to teach English, an opportunity she saw as a chance to explore the world and gain life experience. In October 2006, Lindsay moved to Japan to start her new chapter. She secured a position at the Nova Language School, a popular chain of English schools in Japan, known for employing many foreign teachers and offering them opportunities to connect with students eager to learn. By all accounts, Lindsay thrived in her role. She enjoyed her work, formed a close group of friends, and found joy in immersing herself in a new culture. Lindsay settled in Tokyo, the bustling capital of Japan. Known for its dynamic mix of ancient traditions and cutting-edge modernity, Tokyo is a city that never sleeps. From the bright lights of Shibuya Crossing to the tranquil beauty of its temples and parks, Tokyo offered an endless array of experiences. Lindsay shared a flat in the city with 2 other foreign teachers. Her roommates later described her as warm and friendly, someone who brought positivity into their home and made their shared life more enjoyable. She was excited to explore her new surroundings and took every opportunity to immerse herself in the vibrant energy of Tokyo. Lindsay's future seemed full of promise, but in March 2007, everything changed. On March 20th, Lindsay was on her way home from work when she encountered a man named Tatsuya Ichihashi. He approached her on a train, complimented her on her beauty, and asked if she could teach him English. While she tried to politely brush him off, he followed her to her apartment. Feeling uneasy, Lindsay decided to confront him directly. She told him she couldn't help him, but he insisted he wanted to learn English and convinced her to give him her contact details for a future lesson. It's important to remember here that Lindsay was kind to a fault. She likely didn't want to be rude, even though the situation felt uncomfortable. This moment would lead to a series of events that no one could have predicted. 5 days later, on March 25th, Lindsay agreed to meet Ichihashi at a cafe for an English lesson. The English lesson lasted around 1 hour. When it was time to pay, Ichihashi searched for his wallet, but informed Lindsay that he had forgotten it. He then asked if she could accompany him to his flat so she could receive the payment there. Perhaps she felt it would be a quick stop. Perhaps she wanted to maintain professionalism. Whatever the reason, Lindsay went to his apartment. That decision would tragically cost her life. Tatsuya Ichihashi was born on January 5, 1979, in Gifu Prefecture, Japan. He was the only son of 2 highly educated and well-regarded parents. His father was a doctor, and his mother was a dentist. He came from an affluent background, enjoying a privileged upbringing that provided access to quality education and opportunities. Ichihashi attended a prestigious private university, Chuo University, where he studied horticulture. Reports from classmates and acquaintances describe him as quiet and introverted, though not outwardly hostile. However, beneath this reserved exterior, Ichihashi exhibited troubling behavioral patterns. He was said to have difficulty forming genuine relationships and often kept to himself, which may have contributed to his psychological issues later in life. Ichihashi's personality is often described as socially awkward, manipulative, and controlling. There is little evidence that Ichihashi had meaningful romantic relationships or a stable social circle. His inability to form deep connections might have contributed to his emotional instability and criminal tendencies. Ichihashi had no known criminal record. However, some reports suggest that he had exhibited troubling behavior, including stalking women and displaying aggressive tendencies in private. These incidents went unreported or were not taken seriously enough to warrant legal action, allowing him to evade early intervention. When Lindsay didn't return home on the evening of March 25, 2007, her absence immediately raised alarm among those who knew her. She was known to be responsible, punctual, and communicative, making her sudden disappearance highly unusual. By the next morning, her concerned colleagues and flatmates reported her missing to the police. On the day she went missing, Lindsay had informed her friends that she was meeting one of her students, Tatsuya Ichihashi, for a private English lesson at a cafe near her workplace. This crucial detail provided investigators with a lead, allowing them to trace her movements. Her family in the UK was quickly informed, and they urged authorities to take swift and decisive action. Using the information provided by Lindsay's friends, police were able to track her last known location to Ichihashi's apartment in Ichikawa, a city residential suburb of Tokyo. Officers knocked on the door of the apartment on March 26th around 5:40 p.m. Ichihashi answered and appeared calm, but quickly grew suspicious of their presence. As they began questioning him, Ichihashi suddenly bolted, fleeing barefoot from the apartment building. Despite the officers' attempts to chase and apprehend him, Ichihashi managed to escape, vanishing into the surrounding area. This dramatic escape not only delayed his capture, but also heightened the urgency of the investigation, as police now suspected foul play. After Ichihashi fled, the officers entered the apartment to search for evidence. Inside, they discovered a horrifying scene. Lindsay Hawker's naked body was found stuffed into a sand-filled bathtub on the balcony. The tub was partially covered with compost and soil in an apparent attempt to conceal her remains and delay decomposition. Lindsay had been strangled to death, and there were signs indicating a violent struggle. The officers discovered several wigs in Tatsuya Ichihashi's apartment, items that were likely part of his calculated efforts to disguise himself and avoid recognition, both before and after the murder. Their presence painted a chilling picture of premeditation, underscoring the lengths he was willing to go to alter his appearance and deceive those around him. This seemingly small but significant detail highlighted the meticulous planning behind his actions and further illustrated his relentless attempts to evade justice. The horrifying details of what was found inside the apartment added immense pressure on law enforcement to bring Ichihashi to justice while devastating Lindsay's family and friends, who were now faced with the grim reality of her fate. Minimal belongings and the police actively searching for him, he initially relied on his knowledge of the area to hide. He avoided public transportation and crowded spaces, using his resourcefulness to stay out of sight. Ichihashi lived a transient and isolated existence, moving between cities and rural areas to avoid suspicion. He lived in cheap accommodations, avoided electronic transactions, and worked as a manual laborer, including at construction sites, where he blended in with other transient workers. He avoided forming any personal relationships and lived in anonymity, often working menial jobs to support himself. He drastically altered his appearance to avoid recognition. He grew his hair long, lost weight, and wore masks to conceal his face in public. As media coverage of the case intensified and his photo was widely circulated, he realized that superficial changes were insufficient. In a desperate bid to evade authorities, Ichihashi underwent multiple plastic surgeries to permanently change his facial features. He performed some procedures himself, using crude methods. Using a small knife, he cut off the moles from his left cheek. Then, using scissors, he cut a piece of his lower lip to make it smaller. Later, he visited clinics for professional surgeries, including altering the shape of his nose, lips, and eyes. During these visits, he lied about his identity, claiming he was a victim of bullying or accidents to justify the surgeries. Meanwhile, Japanese police initiated a massive nationwide manhunt to apprehend Tatsuya Ichihashi. They circulated wanted posters, monitored transport hubs, and collaborated with the media to keep his face in the public eye. Checkpoints were set up, patrols increased, and a reward was offered for information leading to his capture. Authorities investigated his past connections and visited plastic surgery clinics after reports suggested he was altering his appearance. Public tip lines were established, while Lindsay Hawker's family made heartfelt appeals, ensuring the case remained in the spotlight. On October 24, 2009, Ichihashi visited a plastic surgery clinic in Nagoya to undergo a rhinoplasty procedure aimed at altering his nose. During the consultation, clinic staff noticed unusual scars on his face, which raised suspicions about his identity. Recognizing a resemblance to the fugitive's widely circulated images, they discreetly photographed him and provided the images to the police. This crucial lead confirmed that Ichihashi was actively seeking surgical methods to change his appearance, thereby narrowing the focus of the manhunt. The day after his visit to the clinic, Ichihashi turned on the television and was horrified to see his picture from the consultation being broadcast. Paralyzed with fear, he broke into a cold sweat, the weight of realization crashing over him. Terrified and desperate, he confined himself to his apartment for several days, grappling with the reality that he had been recognized. Convinced that he needed to flee the country, he hastily devised a plan. To disguise himself further, he changed his haircut, purchased a fake mustache and beard, and even acquired a party costume in a frantic attempt to obscure his identity and evade capture. On 10 November 2009, Ichihashi planned to board a ferry heading to Okinawa, where he hoped to disappear further into isolation. Disguised with a hat and mask, he tried to blend in with other passengers, but his behavior and appearance raised suspicions. A sharp-eyed terminal staff member recognized him from the widely circulated wanted posters and alerted the police. Ichihashi remained unaware that he had been identified until officers approached him. Unlike his dramatic escape in 2007, this time he did not resist. Police apprehended him quietly and confirmed his identity, ending his prolonged flight from justice. Tatsuya Ichihashi's trial began on July 4, 2011, at the Chiba District Court. The proceedings drew significant media attention in both Japan and the UK due to the high-profile nature of the case and the brutal circumstances surrounding Lindsay Hawker's murder. Ichihashi faced charges of murder, rape, and abandoning a body. During the trial, Ichihashi admitted to causing Lindsay's death but denied premeditation or intent to kill. He claimed that her death was accidental, stating that he panicked when she tried to escape and restrained her to prevent her from screaming, which led to her suffocation. He also expressed remorse for his actions, stating he was truly sorry for the pain he caused and offering a written apology to Lindsay's family. However, prosecutors presented compelling evidence that contradicted Ichihashi's claims, including signs of a violent struggle and Lindsay's injuries, which suggested deliberate violence. Prosecutors argued that Ichihashi had lured Lindsay to his apartment with the intent to sexually assault her and killed her to silence her afterward. On July 21, 2011, Tatsuya Ichihashi was found guilty of murder, rape, and abandonment of a body. The court rejected his defense, ruling that his actions were intentional and that he had shown no regard for Lindsay's life. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, a verdict that fell short of the death penalty but reflected the severity of the crime. Lindsay Hawker's family, who attended the trial, expressed relief that Ichihashi had been brought to justice, but criticized his claims of remorse as hollow. They believed his apology was insincere and that his actions during his years on the run, including plastic surgery to avoid capture, showed a lack of genuine regret. While in prison, Tatsuya Ichihashi wrote a controversial book titled Until I Was Arrested, which was published in 2011. In the book, Ichihashi detailed his 2.5 years on the run after the murder of Lindsay Hawker, recounting his experiences as a fugitive, the guilt he claimed to feel, and his thoughts about the crime. The publication of the book sparked outrage and widespread criticism, both in Japan and internationally. Lindsay's family rejected the book and the offer of proceeds, calling it a self-serving attempt to profit from his crime. They expressed anger that he was given a platform to share his perspective while their daughter's life had been taken in such a brutal manner. Many in the public and media condemned the book, accusing Ichihashi of seeking attention and attempting to manipulate public opinion about his actions. Critics argued that the book was an attempt to shift the narrative in his favor rather than a genuine act of contrition. On November 9, 2013, a film adaptation of Tatsuya Ichihashi's book, Until I Was Arrested, was released in Japan. Directed by Dean Fujioka, who also portrayed Ichihashi, the movie chronicles the 2.5 years he spent as a fugitive after the 2007 murder of Lindsay. Despite its artistic direction, the film sparked controversy for its portrayal of Ichihashi, which some critics viewed as overly sympathetic. Additionally, it faced backlash for failing to consult with the victim's family during production, further intensifying the ethical concerns surrounding its release. As we close this chapter on the tragic case of Lindsay Hawker, we are left with a profound sense of sorrow and reflection. Her life was taken in an act of unimaginable cruelty, and while justice was served, it can never truly erase the pain endured by her family and loved ones. This case highlights the vulnerabilities faced by young people living abroad, the importance of vigilance in ensuring their safety, and the enduring strength of a family's love and determination to seek justice. It also serves as a stark reminder of the darker side of humanity, where even privilege and opportunity, as seen in Tatsuya Ichihashi's background, can lead to such devastating consequences. Lindsay's legacy lives on through the memories of those who knew her and the awareness raised in her name. Let us remember her not for the tragedy that befell her, but for the bright, kind, and ambitious young woman she was. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Crime Insomnia. If you found this story thought-provoking, please share your thoughts with us. Be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next episode.